Regular public meeting for the Board of Commissioners will begin. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance to the flag. And right after that, we'll have a moment of silence for those who've had problems recently because of what's going on with the government.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first thing we'll have is approval of minutes. Oh, White Oak Township has an obligation to affirmatively further fair housing for my side. This one, okay. To further fair housing and to review all land use applications in accordance with federal civil rights statutes. This includes taking meaningful actions that overcome patterns of segregation and foster inclusive communities free from barriers that restrict access to opportunity based on protected characteristics. The township in its land use decisions does not discriminate against persons based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, disability, or familial status, and reviews all land use applications in accordance with federal civil rights statutes. Public comments made on the basis of bias and stereotype concerning people within these protected classes will not be taken into consideration by the township in its deliberations. And now we'll get into approval of the minutes from the regular public March 10th meeting. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion. Warren.
Do we have a second?
I'll second Scarfaro.
Or you're not keeping that? Okay.
Do we have any? Well, I do have just a comment on public comments, remarks. The Rec Commission did recommend access to Egypt Park from the new development on Bridge Street.
No, we're not there.
we-
We're just
Minutes.
Okay. Oh, this is
Yeah.
was in there. Okay.
Yeah, and the reasoning was because there's no pedestrian access on Bridge Street, not that it's closed. That's just want to make that clarification. So I guess I'll pull the board.
No.
Oh, sorry, anybody else?
No.
No, I'm doing his job.
Actually, you're doing this guy's job who's not here. Okay. Commissioner Warren.
Aye.
Commissioner Fox? Or Farrow?
Yes.
Okay, now, you're supposed to be doing this down the line.
Okay.
As your job as secretary. So, go ahead.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder?
I abstain. I was not a commissioner last month.
Thank you. Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Motion carries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 ayes, 0 nays. Okay, a motion for the approval of the minutes of the special meeting of March 19th, 2025. Do I hear a motion?
All motions, Fox.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Snyder.
Any comments or questions from anyone?
I'll poll the board. Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder?
I abstain. I was not a commissioner in the first part of that meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Scarfaro?
Yes.
President Sloniker?
Okay, aye.
And myself, Jeff Warren? Aye.
Remember, the president goes last.
Okay, thank you.
And again, just helping you out, I understand. All right, the next thing we're gonna have is courtesy of the floor. You will be monitored for no more than 3 minutes per person, and the first person on the sign-in sheet.
Tina Corn?
Can I stay right here? I just,
Sure. I'll start the clock. Let's go.
okay, I'll talk fast. A couple weeks ago, I had one of our local business owners, 2 of our local business owners come into the tax office. And I don't know if everybody's aware, but we got hundreds of phone calls about the garbage bills. They offered to pay 2 taxpayers' garbage bills. And I thought, that's amazing. It was kind of like very heartwarming with everything that's going on. They asked me how we could do it, so it's fair. And Mr. Bloom, Mrs. Bloom, they're sitting in the back. They picked out, I think, why don't you come up here? You can explain what you wanted to do.
So honestly,
You have to
This is
say,
a lot for us.
before you go any further, just so we get this right.
I
You have
know
to say
you
who
will.
you are and where you,
My name is Dionel Ciblon. I live on 1247 Hampshire Drive. Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. This is a lot for us. We just wanted to pay for somebody that was on need. I know there is a lot going on, and, you know, we have been very fortunate to have 2 business. We love Whitehall, and we just wanted to do something for somebody. We didn't want the recognition, honestly.
No, we didn't. We
But
didn't.
thank you. Thank you for facilitating this.
Did you want to say their names? They're aware of it. They didn't show up tonight. We invited them to come. One was very busy. So I gave those to you if you want to recognize who's getting their garbage paid for the year. And we will send that to them tomorrow.
It's okay.
You don't want to say their names?
Go ahead, Ken. I know you have something on your mind. You always got something on your mind. Go ahead.
I think what you're doing is admirable, but I think the person, it should stay anonymous who
All
is
right.
receiving it,
That's
especially
fine.
at a public
Okay.
meeting.
That's fair.
That's all.
No,
I
that's
actually
fine.
wanted to stay anonymous myself.
Yeah,
That's okay.
as well.
we did too.
I believe that what you do with your right hand, you can't let the other hand to know.
And no one else has to know,
Exactly.
Correct,
especially here. Thank you.
correct.
And it seems like you that put faith back in the community, so thank you for doing it.
We tried to do something for the community, and as me as a business owner and my wife having her own business, Ken knows me a very long time, so,
You're welcome.
thank you.
thank you. Next,
Lorianne Fennel?
Lorianne Fennel, 3107 North 3rd Street, Whitehall. I attended the workshop meeting regarding the recreation survey and the approximate cost without grants and all that. $13 million is a lot of money that can be possibly coming out of the taxpayer's pocket. I'm not totally against it, but with what I've seen, people in Fullerton want their pool fixed, the outside pool, not an indoor pool, outdoor pool. And I can tell you, my inbox of my blog page tell me every day, we want Fullerton pool fixed. Although my couple $1 million, I just have one question. With this recreation center, is it just going to be a vote amongst the commissioners to decide, or is this going to go to a ballot? for them, the people decide what they want. I'm just want clarification on that.
At this particular point, we're in the very beginning stages. I believe personally, it could be a decision made by the commissioners only, or it could also be a referendum. When all the facts are gathered, I'm assuming that the commissioners will decide whether or not it goes a referendum or it's just internal. But with the amount of dollars and cents that's being spent, I would think that you would maybe see a referendum on that.
Okay, thank you.
Regarding your comments about the Fullerton Pool, I think you've been coming to enough meetings to understand that, number one, the cost of the pool to repair is not feasible, number one. Number two, I think you also understand, and on your blog, that the attendance at our pools right now at hockey alone does not hit maximum ever, and the cost to have a third or second pool staffed, okay, is not worth it, because the end result is they're not being utilized even at this point in time. So I personally would have a hard time staffing another pool when I see ours either closes early for non-attendance and/or the attendance is running at 50% level, even though that last year was a very good year as far as attendance goes.
Just before my time's up, because you were speaking, Ken, I disagree with you. I've seen a hockey pool packed, because I've gone down there many a times. I have been there when that pool has been packed, even without events. I've seen it. I've been down there myself with my kids. But at the same time, we did promise at one point, a semi-promise, I'll call it, to fix cementing. People bought houses to where their pools were. Now, I understand the cost of things got bad, things got broken, and wherever the cost is, I just think we need to go back to the basics, fix our pools. When was the last time we got an estimate? How many million was it, Joe, for Fullerton? How many million was it to fix the pool?
Fullerton is structurally deficient. I can tell you right now, from my expertise in the pool industry, you're probably looking at $12 to $15 million.
So, but I think where I'm going with this is, just regarding the recreation issue, and this, I promise, one more second, Jeff, and then I'm done.
Yeah, sure, finish.
Just regarding that, I feel like when this recreation survey was presented, I felt like, my understanding, when me and you had a conversation, when those questions came about, you told me directly that the questions that were on there came up from people on the Recreation Commission. Now, there was things on there that the people didn't have an option to even select something that might not have been on there, because you said like-minded people to me. So I'm just looking for
Let me clarify.
transparency.
I think you're confused in one way.
I don't
The
think so.
rec comprehensive plan is not complete yet. This was just the Jefferson recreation study. There's still a rec comprehensive plan in the works. And that's looking at township recreation township-wide. Then Jefferson Pool will be looked at. So it's not like we're neglecting looking at Jefferson Pool or Cement Pool or Hockey Pool. That's going to be collectively tied into the rec comprehensive plan. We're not even close to that yet.
Okay.
But I can tell you
appreciate it.
this, I read your stuff. We need 18 lifeguards for hockey pool. We're very fortunate we got 18. The city of Allentown put out a $250 bounty today. They only have like 4 lifeguards hired at this point. Other communities don't have pools anymore. Caddy doesn't have a pool. Copley's struggling, but fortunately they have enough staff and enough wherewithal to get their pool open again. I, last year, when I came on board as mayor, reached out to Caddy, because I figured they don't have a pool, they have students, talked to the administration, same thing at Whitehall High School. We went to Northampton. I'm trying to steal kids from wherever I can steal them. We cannot safely open a pool, and I know your deal is rotate the staff.
I do believe in that,
I
yes.
can't control that narrative. Teenagers are teenagers.
Just one more thing, John,
Oh,
and then I'll stop.
no, Lorianne, we're way past the 3
Well,
minutes.
I just want to say something to Mayor.
No, and I
I think
understand.
it's only fair that he needs to know that our taxes pay their salaries.
They
So I
do.
think in fairness, that as
But-
taxpayers, they should be able to rotate. That was never a
But
problem before until now.
respectfully,
My time's up, Joe.
respectfully,
So
Okay.
I respect what you're saying.
Okay, Lori
That's
Ann.
it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Deborah Zine.
Hello. Nice to see you again, Phil. It's been a while. Deborah Zine, 4408 North Church Street. I'm here with some EAC highlights for April 2025. We just completed the Church Street cleanup last weekend. A few surprises. I mean, I think a lot of people were scared off because of the weather. We only had about 12 people that showed up, but thank God for our firemen. They stayed with us for 3 hours. And we got it done, probably collected about 28 bags of trash. The most unusual thing that we found was basically something from a model railroad. I mean, we always find something really weird at all these cleanups, so. The one thing I didn't like seeing though was a lot dirtier than the past, and we saw a lot of alcoholic beverage cans and bottles. I think this is a hot spot. I think our police need to pay more attention to it. I think they'll pick up some DUIs in that area. Our next cleanup is planned for May 3rd. It's going to be Range Road going from Shat to Eberhart. And I have been in touch with the shopping center manager down there and kind of said, we would really like you to put this out to your tenants. We'd like you to join us. They're going to do it. The manager said that he's going to join us, which would be great. I put in some complaints about the area behind the stores, not so much immediately behind the stores, but kind of the woods and the surrounding areas, and they mentioned some things about homeless being in that area. I told them to call you, Joe. We would like to also clean up Jordan Creek. We'd like to put that on our list of places that we want to clean up, but we're also told that there's some homeless people down there too. The PA Game Commission has approved the Whitehall Parkway for a purple Martin Tower. We're getting it free of charge. I've been in touch with Brandon. He's going to install the pole, and the EAC is going to monitor and care for these birdhouses. It's part of a scientific study that they're doing. They're deploying 25 communities throughout the state, and I think it's going to be a wonderful educational opportunity, and they're going to eat mosquitoes in a natural way, good for the concerts. We're also partnering with the Lehigh County Conservation District, Deadco's Bees, and Hawk Mountain to bring programs to Camp Whitehall, and we're going to also deliver 3 programs too about bird collisions, bird watching, bird bingo, which was a big hit last year, and the nature scavenger hunt. Parks and Recs, call out to them. They did a great job mulching and improving the accessibility of birdwatch area. We're going to be adding additional native plants and a kiosk very soon. We have a memorial bench for Joe Hilfinger that's going to be installed next month, and we're going to be supporting the e-recycling event on May 10th. So handing out bags, doing all the stuff that we do. One final thing, I have to do one call out to the Emergency Management Association of Whitehall. They did 3 drone flyovers of the parkway, and that information has been very helpful for us. We used it for the location of the Purple Mountain Tower, as well as it was provided to the RFP bidders for the Whitehall Parkway Strategic Business Plan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deb.
Yeah.
And I just want to shout out to the fire police who
Yes.
provided the traffic, just so that
They
we're
kept
fire
us safe.
police. Yes. And while we were talking trash, I do want to give a shout out to the Home Depot team. Last month, I did talk about how Jordan Greenway was kind of getting in disarray, and they took their team out there within a couple days and cleaned from end to end. So I appreciate their effort there.
Great. I haven't been down there lately.
Next.
Susan Bartle?
Hello. This is long time coming. I'd like to thank
Name and address.
Susan Barthol, 3046 Burt
Thank-
Street South.
Thank you.
Thanks to Lee Rackus for the Veterans Program that she put on in November. My dad was a World War II veteran, and this year I submitted pictures, and they were all up there. Makes you feel good. The music and the pictures, very powerful, especially the headstone. Thank you, Lee. Concert in the Whitehall Parkway series. What a wonderful thing to have. Food trucks, adult beverages, but what we need is an ice cream truck.
We got one for this year.
From King Kong,
No, I don't
Mr.
believe-
Softy.
I don't believe, but it's ice cream, so
Is it soft?
it's cold, yeah. Yeah, they'll soft.
It's cold and creamy.
And also, people bring their dogs. Is there some dog ice cream for them?
Well, now you're pushing this.
Pup cups. Pup cups, I'm told they are.
Popsicles.
Popsicles, okay, I don't have a dog. Okay, well, that's wonderful news. And then also, on January 8th, we had a water main break on Burt Circle West. Nothing like the temperature is minus something, wind chill, no water. Thanks to NBMA, we had water restored by 2 p.m., which I don't know when it went off, but it was restored. Thank you to them. And also, CWSA was there lifting manhole covers to look in there to see if there was water, I guess. It was a cold day for everybody. And then also in January 2025, we had UGI come down on, like between East Birch Circle and South Birch Street, because there was a noticeable smell of gas. They worked a week fixing the problem, digging up the street. You know, it was all blocked off. I don't know what they're doing. But it was cold for them too. So that was fixed. They did a bad job of patching up the holes that they made. But at least we didn't blow up. Oh, I only have 15 seconds.
They'll do restoration on that.
Will they?
They need it, yeah, it needs to settle, and they'll go back and do restoration.
Okay, because it,
Yes.
okay. And Lehigh Street across from Skateaway, all those branches, those trunks of trees,
I just spoke to Mr. Attia, and he assured me, he did move them from the fire hydrant, because we were both concerned about that.
yes,
But he said he will get his people to move them, so I'm on top of it.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Next.
Anthony Kopek?
Anthony Kopak, 3763 Dogwood Drive. So I want to recap the last couple months, going back on some of these meetings. Twice, Mr. Snyder, wanted to silence me on how I was commenting on what was on the agenda, and thankfully, Mr. Sloniker allowed me to continue speaking. Once I was not allowed to speak at the workshop meeting on an agenda item. I was denied to speak there, and then the last meeting I attended, my name was just totally passed over on the list. So my first question is about speaking at workshops meeting. I'm not talking courtesy of the floor, I'm talking speaking on an agenda item. If you're not gonna let the taxpayer comment on that, well then you just might as well lock the door, because then that's not a meeting worth attending if you can't voice your opinion. I would like to see that on the agenda and voted on whether people can comment on an agenda item at a workshop meeting. Because there's been various, situations, and it was, well, we had a lot on the agenda that night. We know no let's have a certain defined policy. And let's get to the trash quick. I hope you told everybody that called in about the trash bill to come down here and voice their concern, because that's what they should do. Because it baffles me how I can live in Whitehall and I can go another street over, or maybe just across the street, wherever the property line is with Copley, and Copley pays, a little over $400 for their trash service, which is basically identical with yard waste and bulk items and all that stuff, but it's only a little over $400 there, and they get a 10% early discount pay, and I'm sure their exonerations are much more flexible than what you have here. And with that said, I would have to question why you're billing the taxpayer $5.82 for your recycling center. That's not just for residents that have houses. The recycling center is used by everybody in the township, and it is open to Lehigh County residents. To just charge a homeowner the $5.82 is unacceptable. That should come out of money somewhere else in your budget, from income taxes or somewhere else where there's money. That shouldn't be just a cost associated to the homeowner, because anybody can use that. And I don't agree with the Cameron Tract, charging for that. And the same with the exonerations, $20.97. That should be spread among all the taxpayers in Whitehall that pay income tax and everything else. Everybody should shoulder that burden, just not the homeowner. And if the total comes to $612.23, why is the bill $615?
That's it.
Okay. All right.
Karen, do you have a comment?
I have a question, I'm not on the list.
No.
We don't see you on the list, but come up now.
Can I ask a question? Karen Pashevko, 3303 Musselman Court. In reference to what Mr. Kopek said about anyone can use the recycle center, I don't believe that that's correct, because my neighbor and I, Janet, have gardens, but we live at Fellowship. So we're basically renters. We don't own our property. And we asked if we could drop off our yard waste, and we were told no, because we are not homeowners. Likewise, my understanding is that renters cannot use the recycle center. So,
Talking the recycling center or the?
yard waste.
Yard waste.
Yard
Recycling
waste.
center, okay.
Did I misunderstand what?
Maybe I did, I just wanted to clarify it.
So this fee that Mr. Kopek referred to, is that for yard waste?
There's one for each center.
I don't know where his numbers came from, but what I
Okay.
do know, when they originally figured out the trash bill, and I think Jack will confirm this, he took all the line items that we have to pay and divided it in to come up with a number. Am I right in saying that, Jack?
Yes.
And then at that particular point, if someone doesn't pay, it is a comprehensive number and it is divided amongst the residents. So that's how it's carried over. The fact that you say a renter doesn't have to pay, and I'm thinking two types of renters. A renter would be someone who lives in a complex, using that as an example. Most of the time, they would not have a need for that, okay? But a renter who's somebody who rents a townhome as a single-family dwelling may be responsible to take care of waste and stuff and cutting grass and would have a use of that. So I'm confused, I don't know, but I do know that when I voted on the trash arrangement, I did see the numbers from Jack that he did and how he prepared them. And I thought it was fair and equally distributed across the board. And you could do all kinds of things with numbers, but I thought it was fair and everybody was taken into consideration. The $450 charge, I didn't see it on my bill because honestly, I don't pay my bill. My wife pays the bill, so I didn't see it. But the bottom line is I feel comfortable with what he presented to the board at the time.
So this is a stupid question, but is this $4.50 or $450?
I'll be honest, I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Mr. Kopak can clear if it's $4.50, like $4.50. I don't know the answer to that question.
$582 for the recycling center.
500?
On Range Road.
Please, no shouting out from
Okay, so we,
makes things a little bit harder up here.
Why don't we see his paper? Ask to see his paper. Can you bring that piece of paper up, so we kind of see where you're,
we've seen this from Jack, but yeah, I know what you're talking
please?
about. Oops. So, this trash.
Copy right from your budget.
That's okay. So the trash issue is constant within the community. I know people are not happy with it, but on the agenda tonight, you see that I brought up people who did not. We're going to be talking about that later on in detail about who has not paid or not paid. But I know, and I think the Board of Commissioners, not speaking for all of them, but we all voted for it, we did our best to get where we have to go. And what I see now in other surrounding communities, they're facing what we faced. It just so happened we were up first. And that's just the way it is. I don't know what to tell anybody. And I don't want to keep hashing it because we can't change it. We got a 5-year contract. But I will say this, that when the budget comes up this year, they brought up the method of giving exonerations, and the number was really low, like an income of, say, $17,000. I do feel that we need to look at that, But keeping in mind, if someone, a person left hand gets exonerated, the right hand has to pick it up. So if we have some unfortunate situations going on in the township, we have to look at that. But I don't know the requirements, and at that time, we'll look at them. That's the
Okay.
best I could tell you. That's me speaking.
So I just want a clarification, because Janet and I have talked, would it be possible for us to pay a fee and bring our yard waste to the drop-off? Is that possible? I mean, we are not allowed to bring our yard waste there, but if we would pay a fee, would it be possible? Because our stuff, it just gets thrown in the garbage. And we do a lot of gardening. So you don't have to answer this question now.
We don't have an apparatus in place, and we don't have the manpower to do so. If you, do you understand where I'm going?
Yeah, but it's I see, the billing issue, you mean?
Right.
Okay, so no worries. I mean, like, our little stuff in the whole
Yeah, this
scheme
has
of
never
what
been
gets thrown
proposed.
away, it's like, it's nothing, but
This has never been proposed
But it-
before. This is very new to me, so.
it bothers us, so no big deal. Thank you.
I will go on to public hearing and voting on ordinances, bill number 7-2025. An ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for providing operational and maintenance services for streetlights for Whitehall Township in accordance with section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Jack, is relamping in this, or just wait?
No, this is just maintenance,
Just maintenance, and that's it? No relamping in these?
not yet, no.
But it does,
They
if
will-
replacement, like if something's
Oh,
not, yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
If the light goes out, they will.
No, but I mean, if a pedestal gets knocked over, this is part of the contract too.
No, if there's an accident there, we bill
Okay,
we get the police reports and.
Karen, okay, great.
We submit claims for those.
Any other comments from the board?
Is this specific streetlights or just all?
Oh, the township.
2,200 lights.
Any comments or questions from the audience? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder,
Yes.
Commissioner Schneider,
Yes.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
Commissioner Scarfaro, Commissioner Warren, aye. President Sloniker,
Aye.
motion carries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 0.
Bill number 12-2025, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for Mickley Pride and Farm renovation Phase 2 in Whitehall Township, which in accordance with sections 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion. Warren,
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Fox.
Any comments or questions from the board? Dollar amount, he said.
No, I thought it was in mid. $358,859.48. $358,859.48.
That was the total.
And what's the bid?
The actual bid was requoted at $448,924. From that, we removed the handicap, or the ramp, accessible ramp, and work that does not necessarily comply with, or meet the terms of the 3 grants that we have right now. So that was removed, and we came under our budget with, when you take into account the amount of the 3 grants, and we still have extra money of the the townships match that can go into that. So about 14,000 of township match is used for that, which will allow us in the long term to begin having the architectural, at least the architectural work done if we go, if and when we go to any next phase.
So the grant amount we got was 358,000.
No, we got 300 and, the three grants total 344, 544.
Okay.
So, and the bid was 358, 859, so there's 14,000 and change that is not covered that the township would put out for the work that's going to be done.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Two questions, maybe three. Knowing me, it'll probably end up like 4 or 5. But the bottom line is, who's running the project within the township?
Gordy and bidder,
The bidder.
Yes.
Who's watching the bidder?
Brandon.
Brandon. Okay. So when we go down this arrangement,
See, there's a general contractor, and then there's Gordian, which is the project.
manager.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's the general contractor?
What's the name of that company?
Don't make it, okay.
Labar.
Lobar, okay. So Lobar is the contractor, and then the project manager is Gordian. Have we ever worked with those guys before?
No, but there
What-
are other communities around here that have done it. They also have done CDBG projects, so
Okay.
the county is aware of them, and, you know, we're going through the process now, having them approved by the county so that the CDBG funds can.
Okay. You guys use a lot of acronyms, so I'm just gonna stick with the dollars and cents from it. They start the project, and I'm gonna use a line item for the sake of discussion, windows. Windows are supposed to cost us $50,000. Now, they're informed to the project manager that that cost is now $75,000 instead of 50 for whatever reason. What is the procedure at that point when that line item went over budget by $25,000?
There is no deviation from the bid. The project cost, they're quoting every single, their bid was about, 5-6 pages long, covering everything. So that's what they're held to. There's no escalator clause or that, inflation made things more expensive, or their supplier had problems. All of this is covered under the bid. It's a not to exceed to do that scope of work.
So specifically, it's windows, if I recall, moisturizing or anti-moisturizing. There was the ADA that was being put in, that's now been
Well,
removed.
there's brick coating, the brick work on the, it is a major portion of the work, and the windows. That's the two major portions. There's also the porch that's going to be done, and the electrical service is going to be configured so that we can get power to that. And I think that's pretty much the 4 main
Okay.
parts of it.
So when we're done on this project, I'm gonna end up with a good roof, a good exterior, windows that are proper, my entranceway, the doors are gonna be done. I'm basically gonna be weatherproofed 100% with no heat inside the building.
But there'll be electric there.
That's okay.
so that it can-
So what are we doing to stop or prevent additional damage that will occur inside the building during high moisture arrangements as far as dehumidifying or anything to that effect? What's happening in that area?
Well, at this point, there's been preliminary work to design and develop specifications for the interior work that has not yet been finalized. But, like I said, this is all gonna be a work in progress. That, we're under time constraints to, especially with the CDBG money, to have that money, utilized or lose it. And the same thing with the LSA grants. We've gotten extensions to use to extend
Okay, this may sound crazy, but if you have a building that leaks like a sieve, it doesn't necessarily always hold moisture because air is moving through and do that. When you seal everything up on the outside, you're now going to be trapping moisture on the inside, which hence, July, August, high opportunities for mold. The bottom, I've been told, the bottom basement is dry. I've been down once, so I think it's dry. What I don't want to find is that because we're making it, quote, now anti-moisture or sealed, that we're not going to protect the inside of the building to make sure we don't have mold that can occur. That's my one concern. The second concern is that I don't want to find that someone comes in here and says it's no longer $344,000. We have cost overruns, and because of these cost overruns or changes in the scope of work, that we're now at $400,000 until that comes back to the Board of Commissioners to deal with it.
Well, with regard to the second thing, that won't happen because we've spent 6 months trying to get these specs to the point where we can eliminate
They were long.
any possibility of that. So I think we've done as much as we can do between the architect and the other people who've worked on this project, just to make that, for lack of a better word, airtight.
Airtight. This company, what's it, again, I'm sorry.
Accordion.
Accordion, who do they report to inside this township building?
Brandon.
Brandon. I asked that question before. Now, if Brandon has cost overruns or anything like that, what will he do with those and what's his instructions? I want to just prevent what happened at the park. That's all I'm trying to do, as long as it's, that's why I'm asking these questions. And if everybody sits down and says, well, Brandon says it's an overrun, he's going to now sit down and go to the mayor and say, here's what we got to do and figure this thing out. That's all I'm asking for.
There is no part of the, there is no township component to this work
Okay. All right.
other than making up the difference of the grant and the.
Okay. All right. I'm fine. Thank you.
One question, what all came out of what we originally wanted to compromise down to this number?
Only the ramp that was
The
supposed to,
ADA ramp?
and it was supposed to go around,
And that can be added later?
yeah. It could.
Your grant required you to put that in? No, it did not. I always saw the AD on there and I thought that's part of the grant.
No, the only problem we have, and Jeff knows this very well, is part of these grants, we're assuming that we would have money left over to begin doing some of the interior items that you so eloquently addressed. And the price of the project is just so that, you know, we're remediating the blight, which helps us with the CDB compliance. And the LSA grant, the LSA both give us the flexibility between the windows, the doors, and the brick coating to meet the requirements of those grants as well.
So my question is going to be to Jeff. As you work your way through this project, because basically it's your project you like to work on, how are you going to get grants or whatever it is to make sure that we're not sitting here 2 years later and none of the end stuff is done?
We've been very successful with the LSA, that's gaming money that's been earmarked for that, and once you're in the pipeline, they typically keep funding the projects. Like Jack said, the architect, working with specialty folks, will come up with the scope, what has to be done. They'll look at the electric. The electric was upgraded, there's on the electric box, there was an inspection done, but it will be checked. And they'll come up with what needs to be done to make the interior, so we can get an occupancy permit for inside, yeah.
So when, like, this is a never-ending thing, so now, okay, we're going to put heat in. Well, this building is not anywhere remotely insulated to deal with that issue. So you'd have to figure the insulation out. So my question is, this grant that you talk about, has Selmer filed for an additional grant in advance to do interior work, or how exactly what's going to happen?
Grant cycles are in the fall.
Last question I have. I agree with Ken, you're going to tighten this building up now. I agree with Ken, you're gonna tighten this building up now, and there's no ventilation in there. And that's a ground floor in the basement of places, which is very damp. Now, once you tighten this building up and it doesn't breathe, in the summertime, that humidity is gonna go through the roof. And you're putting new brick coat and everything on the outside of that building, and I believe that is a three-course brick wall in places, and as those bricks absorb and absorb and absorb moisture, that can actually ruin the new brick coat on the outside.
We're repointing the brick, removing the brick coat and repointing the brick, the original brick.
The brick coat's coming off and you're repointing the brick.
Yes.
That's even worse yet, because at that point, the brick's exposed to the outside. You've got to somehow deal with the moisture in this building, or you're gonna start ruining things you're doing because of the ground floor. I mean, it's a damp building.
Oh,
And the
dehumidifier,
other thing is, what are we doing with the chimneys that are there?
they're all restored.
They're what?
Everything from the soffit up is,
From the
2 years
soffit
old.
up is restored, but you're still breathing air through those chimneys, and there's no liners. There's no terracotta liners or anything in those chimneys. And as those chimneys get damp, they're going to start falling down from the inside and collapsing. Very similar to the kilns over in Copley. That's why they could never keep those kilns over there, because they couldn't keep them dry. It's just the nature of the game. That's why the county took 1 or 2 kilns and sealed them off, that you have a historical monument there, and the rest were kind of disposed. You need to either drop liners in these chimneys or block them off somehow to keep the moisture out of them until you can get around to this, because as fast as you're putting money into this building, it's going to keep rotting away on the inside, especially if the grants get held up for a year or two. You're going to have so much damage in that building, and then all this public money was thrown into that building, and it's just not destroying itself, and that's the main concern here. This is public money, and we do want to use it rightly. We're thankful for it, but we want to use it rightly, and, you know, I think somehow you've got to address the humidity issues in that building in the meantime while you're doing this. You know, if you were gonna leave the building open the way it is now, ventilated and stuff, yeah, it's lasted all these, but once you tighten that building up, now you're asking for trouble. And I've seen this many times as a mechanical contractor, 41 years in the trade. I've seen it happen many, many, many times. Classic example is the Historical Museum in Allentown. There wasn't enough humidity control put in there, and they had to go back and redo that. It's 30-some years ago, but there's a classic example of an old building that was tightened up for use. So I don't know where you find the money to do that at this point. You know, or do you leave, but you shouldn't leave the windows go and, you know, get the brick pointing and stuff down and then do the windows later. That's not the proper procedure to do that either. So somehow, do you look for some extra money to try and get some dehumidification in there and get those chimneys closed up? Because I don't know what type of heat you're planning on putting in there, but if you're gonna go back to the old oil, you gotta put liners in those chimneys anyway, because the new higher efficient equipment isn't burning as hot in these chimneys, and these chimneys are gonna rot inside from moisture, because they don't get hot enough to burn the moisture out anymore. So one way or the other, you're gonna have to deal with this. And I doubt you'll heat that building electrically, it would be over the top.
So,
There's no insulation in it.
so Jeff, we're into this thing, there's no two ways about it, okay? And my concern is that, okay, we're spending the money and it's public money, but we cannot sit here and not have a plan to do what both Phil and I are talking about, because your end result in 18 months or 2 summers is gonna be a problem. So what I'm asking you to do is, through whatever the grants that you always work on, is figure something out quick, and I don't care if that comes down to in July, August, and September, you put a thermostatic control fan in the window just to get ventilation through there, to have that as something, or go to the contractor that's doing the bidding and ask them what they have for an idea, and if it costs $1,500 to $3,000 to put some type of central fan in there to deal with those issues, it's something. The next thing that would be on the list from my side to take care of would be to concrete those ground floors and get that taken care of, because that could be a combination of what, you're right next to the creek. I mean, so let's be honest, it's moisture arrangement. The creek's on the other side, it's 100 feet away, so it's there. So I would just like to see that, okay, we're gonna spend this money moving forward, that we keep the ball rolling and say, okay, these are the next 3 projects, gotta be taken care of, so we're covered. And that, if that happens, I'm fine, but I don't want to be sitting here and watch it go downhill like something else
Have they
happened.
done a radon study on it?
No,
No.
no.
Perhaps a radon study too at this point. And then,
Right.
get that floor cemented after the radon study, and that would keep a lot of moisture out.
Basement. You're talking about the basement floor?
basement floor.
Basement floor is concrete.
I thought it was grounded places the last time I was down.
I don't believe so.
I don't know.
No.
I thought I saw ground, but I'm okay, it could have been so dusty.
One way or the other, but, maybe just get some type of dehumidification system in it. Because opening the windows doesn't work either, because you get a heavy rainstorm, and who's gonna run down there and close the windows? And now we got rain pouring in through a window, and, it's just a vicious circle. So it's,
I guess we can consult with the contractors, see what they recommend based on what they know of the building.
that was all I had on it.
Any further comment from the board? Any comments, questions from? Okay.
I'll pull the board. Sorry.
Sorry, yes, sorry. Sorry. Didn't know if you saw me coming. Robin Rummel, 3227 Clearstream Drive, Whitehall. I actually live across from that building. Curious, what is the end game here with the building? What's the goal to use the building?
Right now, ideally would have it ready for American 250, so we could get people inside. And there are different groups, like the Rotary wanted to get in there for a mixer. It's certainly not ready for anybody to get in there. The idea would be to make it accessible to the public. We have the Hunger Initiative Garden that the people don't have a place to stage there. They're working out of the trunks of their vehicle. I think this is year number 6 for that, and it keeps getting more and more attention, more and more volunteers. The idea is to provide connectivity to the Ironton Rail Trail from the development there, what is it called? Arlington Knolls. Right now, there's no improved access from there up to the trail. But the idea would be maybe to even, I don't know if it's even feasible, but like Ilex Mill, they have a small nonprofit in there that they meet. They use it as their office occasionally. And basically, they pay for the utilities for the year. It's kind of like an eyes on the property. But the idea would be maybe to have something like that in there. And maybe the EAC could possibly use it as their home base.
Okay, and thank you. I do appreciate that 2 of the commissioners have a vast, very deep understanding of construction, and I would think that would be great to tap into. So thank you, Mr. Ginder and Mr. Snyder, what they said is very valid, and it is true, as being a builder myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the audience? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Scarfaro?
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker? Oh, sorry. Commissioner Snyder?
Yes, with the caveats that we talked about, this being, yes.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes,
President Sloniker?
Aye.
Okay, bill number 15-2025, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of proposals for construction inspection services per request for proposals 2025-02 in accordance with section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll second it.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Lee, have their prices changed much?
Unfortunately, yes. Their prices will be increasing. They've held their prices for the last 3 years, which have been some very challenging years post-COVID, but we do expect a price increase across the board. Next month, if you approve this contract next month, there will be an ordinance on your agenda for the endorsement of their current rates, as well as some tweaks in our own rates.
And this was put out the bid, and they still
Correct.
are the prevailing bidder?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Questions from the floor? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Scarfaro?
Yes.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren, aye. President Sloniker?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Bill number 16-2025, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for purchasing road building materials for the Public Works Bureau of the Township of Whitehall in accordance with Section 3.20 of the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Scarfaro.
I'll second that, Warren.
Any comments or questions from the board?
If the price goes down, Jack, do we get the lower price, or is this a fixed price?
No, there's an escalator clause as well as a.
De-escalator.
De-escalation.
Thank you.
clause. Goes by the price of oil. That's right.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the audience? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Scarfaro?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren, aye. Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
President Sloniker?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Bill number 17-2025, a first hearing, there'll be no action. An ordinance authorizing the township mayor to accept a deed of dedication from Hearthfire Capital LLC along Mickley Road for the purpose of right-of-way and future road construction. Bill number 18-2025, also a first hearing, there'll be no conversation on this. An ordinance of the Township of Whitehall, County of Lehigh, and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending the amount of compensation payable to the Board of Commissioners as referred to in Chapter 1, Administrative and Government, Part 1, Administrative Code, Article 2, Township and Board of Commissioners, subsection 1-7, Compensation of Commissioners of the Codified Ordinance of Whitehall Township. Okay, public hearing and voting on resolutions. Resolution number 3374.
Hold on, I have a question for our solicitor on what you just read.
No, we don't talk about that right now. It's a first hearing.
I understand that, but he said something at the workshop that I didn't see in my packet, so maybe I missed it. You
Okay.
said that there had to be an amount in someplace.
There was one, I got one distributed here from you, man.
I'm scrambling, looking, that's why I got it. Yes, thank you, that's all I want tonight. Okay. I'm good.
Okay. Resolution 3374, a resolution for sewage facilities, plan revision for new land development, Mr. Car Wash located at 2160 MacArthur Road, Whitehall Township, PA. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions from the board? Comments or questions from the audience? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Scarfaro?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren, aye. Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
President Sloniker?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Resolution 3375, a resolution requesting a Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Program grant for the Ironton Rail Trail repavement project. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Warren.
Do I have a second?
Fox.
Fox. Any comments or questions from the board?
Does this include the Copley section? No. Okay, I didn't know if we were applying for the materials, and if we were partnering with them on that. Okay, understood.
Any comments or questions from the floor? Mr. Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren, aye. Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Scarfaro? Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes,
President Sloniger?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Resolution 3376, a resolution of Whitehall Township clarifying resolution number 3349. Do I have a motion?
All motions, Scarfaro.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, could we just get an explanation of this for the public, of what?
Sure. As you recall, you approved resolution. This is authorizing a transfer for the Top Star location. The resolution was based on what the applicant submitted. They submitted it to the LCB. The LCB requested some clarification. That's their word. So there's no substantive change. You're not reapproving it. The LCB just asked for some minor clarification.
Thank you. I just wanted to call that out because the title of the resolution doesn't explain what we're doing here. This is a transfer of a liquor license that previously has been approved.
Any further comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the audience? Secretary, please poll the board.
Commissioner Scarfaro?
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes,
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren, aye. President Sloniger?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Other motions. Motion to approve the collection of certain delinquent garbage accounts by the township. Other motion. I'll move. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions from the board?
This is what we talked about, the delinquent taxes, the delinquent trash, is that correct? So you showed me at the meeting, when you went down the list, there's I don't want to call it the hit list, but the top offenders are there, and it's about $300,000 including penalties. And there's a second list that would be about $110,000, that would be not the primary. This refers to the approximately $450,000, including the trash bills, penalty, and interest, where people have not paid their bills that Port and Office not trying to collect, that we as a township are going to go after. And in a workshop, we discussed the fact that there's going to be a procedure. And the procedure we discussed is that there's going to be a method that the list would be analyzed. The list has since been analyzed. I don't know who all got a copy for seen it, but the numbers as of now is a group, I think 68 of them on there approximately. Is that about right? About 70 people? 30-some people.
37 were identified as the ones that we would pursue.
And those 37 people, if we were successful on all of them, we would collect close to 300 grand or 250, which was it?
No, it would be like 300, sorry. It would be like 300, right now, as of the end of the month, 377.
So,
Now that is,
perfect world.
that's our collection
Right.
costs. That's not net revenue.
That's our collection what?
That's our collectible amount right now. That does not represent the costs that need to be
That's right.
incurred in doing it.
So I've been advocating for this thing for a while. I want to make sure I understand what we're doing. I'm going to use round numbers again. 350,000's on the table, and there's going to be a procedure. Could you explain, are you in a position to explain what that procedure is going to be, all the way from the time to the first letter to the time they were sitting down in the court to get their money, how much it's going to cost approximately per person? I'm guessing.
It's difficult to estimate the cost.
know.
I can tell you the procedure. The procedure
Okay.
first is we will send everyone on the list a letter demanding that they pay, and we anticipate we'll get some response to that, although most of these people have been avoiding it for 10 years, so I don't think we'll get a lot, but we'll, obviously is worth the cost of the stamp to send a letter first. Without getting too deep into it, there are liens on all of these properties, but you can't execute on a lien. A lien is there that protects the township, but it's not something we can execute on. So there is a process. There are two different writs that have to be filed. There's a time period between each writ. At each step, we expect that some people will understand the seriousness of this, and we will collect some more. That's the goal, that you knock people off at each step. So that's a filing. They'll get legal notice each time those things happen. And if there are still some outstanding after that, we would have to schedule it for a sheriff's sale. That is the most costly part. If we get to that point, it involves significant expense and time.
Some of these people may owe us $15,000, $20,000 as we speak, is that correct?
Yes.
There are a few that,
A few.
there are a very small number, but there are a few, yes.
If you take 38 people and divide it into 350, each, whatever the number ends up being, the point is that, okay, I'm gonna use myself as an example. I get your letter, I pay you, great, we're done. I get your letter, I don't pay you, you're now gonna go the next step and we're more serious, okay? I don't pay you again. The next step is you're gonna come to the board and say, okay, these group of people did not pay and we spent them picking, nope, you're gonna keep on going?
My understanding and expectation is if you pass the motion tonight, you're authorizing me to take all the steps necessary to collect these
You were
amounts.
clear about that at the last meeting, and I just wanna make sure everybody knows that we're talking about. So this is, it's all, I was gonna watch what I said there. Yeah, we're in this to get our money, okay? Now, I can't pay it because I have an issue, whatever my issue is. Are we gonna offer those people a payment plan that would be available? And are we in a position to offer some of these people sometime in the middle, a amnesty program that we would sit down and say, okay, we did the first round, the second round, now we're gonna offer an amnesty type program like they do in other things.
Tax holiday.
But I think that's going beyond what.
I don't know.
Is in the first place.
I agree.
We're trying to get money, so, and legal expenses, I mean, we're paying attorney fees, we're paying court costs, filing fees, and to what end? And so I don't know how much we're actually going to recover, and I understand going after them, and I get the whole point, but at the end of the day, after all expenses are paid, I don't think it's gonna be as much as you think it is that we're going to get, because if you didn't pay your tax bill in 10 years, no shot somebody's gonna send me a letter, you're gonna be like, oh my God, let me pay. You know, it's gonna take it to the next level, and that's gonna cost more legal fees, filing fees. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, realistically, we're not gonna get all this money back. I'm just saying.
I'm hoping for 50 cents on a dollar. That's me. That's all.
I get it. Yeah, something needs to be done, but I'm just saying, I think we need to think realistic, I mean, filing fees and legal fees are gonna be up there, especially the further we go.
We will demand that we recover those things as well. I can't tell you if they will always be recoverable. If people we're making collections from want to try and resolve it some way, I'll certainly bring that to you, but I don't like to start at the beginning saying we're gonna take a settlement, or else everybody is gonna wanna settle. So we're gonna be looking for full amount that's due, plus all costs and fees, and we'll see what happens.
So you'll keep it, I've done REOs on the opposite end, so I kind of know how it works in between. I'm assuming the same thing will happen then. We're going for the full enchilada.
And I'll certainly keep you informed of what's happening.
Thank you. Fine. Do we need a motion? Do we make the motion?
Any other comments from the board? Any comments or questions from the floor?
I do.
Name and address, please.
Robert Bloom, 1247 Hampshire Drive.
So she can pick
1247 Hampshire Drive, Robert Bloom. Ken, let me ask you a question. These people didn't pay, what, 10, 20 years? John?
You know, they were, most of them were between 2014 and 2017. So, and the township at that point, it's before the township used Portnoy. Since 2017, the township has used Portnoy. So at that point, liens were placed on the properties.
Gotcha, I got
But the
that.
people have, despite the lien
Sure.
being there, have not paid it.
I got that.
Yeah.
But my question to you, Ken, is, they didn't pay it that time, all that time. What makes you think they're gonna pay it now?
I have an answer for that.
Shoot, please give it to me,
No, I'll tell you.
please.
I don't have the names of the people, I only have addresses.
No, that's fine.
What I started to do is go through, and there is a person. There's a party, okay, who owes us $64,000 in trash without penalties, so I doubled that because when I did my math, that's what it came out to. So
There's nobody that owns us.
no, not 64, 4,000,
Thank you.
4,000, I'm sorry.
I was gonna correct them.
That's okay. So that's $8,000. That person has no mortgage on their property at all, zero. There's another one that I looked at, and they had a $57,000 mortgage that was put on their property 25 years ago. They owe us $9,000. And in the same token, there's another property owner who owes us $6,000 but has a mortgage of $300,000 put on in the last 5 years. So from a business point of view, that person's probably not going to.
Exactly.
But the people who have no mortgage or little mortgages that are just sitting around doing nothing, I would assume that I'd want to protect my house that's paid off and pay my damn garbage bill.
That's you, I'm just saying, Ken, that's you, but.
But I
Then
sit
peop-
up here representing
people out there-
8,000, hear me out, you asked me.
Go ahead.
I represent 8,500 homeowners who are griping about their tax bill, and some people have not paid, trash bill, and some people have not. And when you see that kind of money on, and the fact that this year it's gone up to 600 and whatever it is per year, I don't believe that these people are gonna all of a sudden start writing checks and paying the 600 to be the same
don't
group
see
of
that
people.
either. No, I
The
don't
other
either.
thing is that our delinquency rate is 8% on our trash that we get approximately. If you had 8% of the people didn't pay you in your business, you wouldn't be standing here in business.
Trust me,
So-
I have that.
I understand, so that's my position, and it's been that way from the get-go, and that's why I feel the way I do. I do believe that if there's extenuating circumstances, that somebody has to present that, and we would deal with it at that time. But meanwhile, I don't know how we could sit here and leave $450,000 on our accounts receivable growing and not attempt to get it. That's my answer.
All right, you gave me the answer.
Okay.
And but like she said, all that money, how much of that money you're gonna get back?
If I get 50 cents on a dollar, I'm okay.
I don't
Plus
see
you-
that happening, but
You owe me the money, that's how, I've
I'll buy you
expressed it.
lunch if you get 50 cents on the dollar, Ken.
I like hot dogs, chili with cheese.
No problem, thank you.
Lorianne Fano, 3107 North Third Street. Jack, you said that they can go up to a sheriff's sale, right? To that point?
That would be the ultimate result.
The only question I have is with landlords and tenants. You said there was one that had like 4 units and they didn't pay. I'm concerned with the tenants not knowing this knowledge about their landlord. Just listen for me for a minute. And they're not knowing their landlord's not paying their garbage bill, and we're coming down hard on those people, and they have no knowledge that their landlord is not paying their garbage fee. That's just, what do you think about that for a second? That's all I'm asking, is that could there be notification to the tenants that are in that building that their landlord's not paying their bill? Does that make sense? I didn't know if it was private, like, that's what I was just trying to clarify, that's all.
But the tenants don't owe the money.
No, I know that. I'm saying that they're not aware that their own landlord is not paying the bill. Do you see what I'm saying? So say if it got to a really serious part on your end, these tenants have no idea what could come to them. Do you see? Does that make sense what I'm trying to ask?
It does, but ultimately it's the landlord who's the property owner who could lose the property. The tenants
Yes.
can stay in there even if And they will get notice.
Okay, that's what
Or
my
they'll-
concern
the
was, in the
property
event it
will
got
be
like that,
posted.
those tenants would get some type of notice. If their landlord's hiding it, that they're not paying their trash bill, and these people are gonna be forced out of their homes last minute or whatever. That's
Well,
my, what the thought
people
is.
won't be forced out of their homes because of the sheriff's sale, but they will, the property would be posted if we got to
Okay,
that.
that's what I wanted, they would have awareness,
They-
that's all.
Yep, they'd be
Thank you.
aware of it.
One last question, the rentals. If a tenant moves out and somebody else moves in, we have to do a CO on the apartment. Do we hold up the CO for any vacant apartments? Or don't we have a legal means to do that?
No.
They're not related things. I mean,
Okay.
our ability is to collect, as the treasurer is doing now with Portnoy, or to file a lien.
Got it, all right.
I actually have a question. These apartment buildings change ownership so frequently. So if you're going back to 2011, when Mr. A owned the apartment building, and now Mr. C owns it, are you going back to Mr. A, or does Mr. C have to pay up on that lien?
The lien attaches to the property.
So
So
it's the
if
new
a
owner.
new owner bought the property and didn't, I mean, it's a public record. You can find the liens if you do a simple search at the courthouse. So if somebody bought the building and didn't do a search, that's, particularly a commercial building, I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for someone who's buying a commercial building
That's
without
my
doing a
thing.
search.
Why aren't these being found at the title searches?
Well, either the people aren't doing searches, or the people just don't care. I mean, both of those things happen in my experience. But there's no, the lien remains, and the lien continues to have priority as long as we maintain it, which means it's a valid lien that's continuing to accrue interest and is available, and we can certainly pursue this action to force people to pay.
One regarding Tina. Tina and I spoke earlier this week. When she does her tax certs, she goes back 3 years on the trash, is that correct? The only thing I would ask is that when a tax cert comes in on a property, that this list is given to Tina, so she knows, and I know they're supposed to pick it up on the title search, that she could refer to that list and tell them, hey, just so you know, this was going, because there are 2 properties that they put mortgages on after, and you and I have talked about that. So if you would just have the hot list, so you can at least refer back to it and give them on the tax cert the note across the bottom. Is that possible?
Legally, there's no problem with that. I mean, you can include, the things that you're obligated to put on there, but the township can include other things that are due.
We actually
so-
talked about that
Yep,
at one point,
we did.
that I was reaching out to Gavin to see if there's liens on the property. But that kind of went by the wayside too, because I wasn't finding any that had liens on them. So that's something that I would have to start reaching out to Gavin, or if you could give me a list, I could.
Would you consider providing her the list so she could add it to her tax cert to do that? Yes, so I'm asking that you cross-reference the list on your tax certs. Thank you.
Other questions for the audience? Mr. Secretary, please call the board.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Scarfaro? Commissioner Fox? Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren, aye. President Sloniger.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Discussion updates, update on collections of the back trash bills we discussed. Number 2, funds for a study to investigate an alternative building at Jefferson Playground.
So at the workshop last time, they came in and gave us a preliminary view of the Jefferson Recreation Study. And at that time frame, each of us got a copy of the study to read in advance. In that study, it showed that there's approximately I think a $10 million number in that study. I use a 13 because that does not include site improvements, engineering costs in order to figure out the site, and overview and things to that effect. there was a separate number given to us of 506,000 on top of the extra number. So the bottom line is, I'm still sticking with 13 million. The $13 million can be paid for, in the worst case scenario, 100% by the taxpayers, either referendum or write the check or basically float a bond, putting that aside. In that study, they also told us that we'd be looking at 5 years from the time we put the key in the door and unlock it, all right? Now, whether we believe that we need to do this down there or not, I don't know 100%, but I do believe that we need to be able to have a second proposal for our residents that says, we have an existing building that's approximately 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. It has a kitchen, has this, has that. Can we add on to that and pick up some of these amenities that would be of a lower cost, that would not require the amount of parking and things to that effect? So we don't have that number at this point. So I'm asking for $30,000 to be given out and request a proposal from the architect that worked on the pool and the recreation center to give us a second evaluation, and it should be done fairly quickly and easily because the infrastructure, they already analyzed and figured that out. And the other thing is that if you do that, then on the email that I sent to all you folks, that we also have to figure out on this cost arrangement with Keystone, our engineer, how much are we gonna have to spend on infrastructure and working our way so that when we sit down here, and I use the 4 components, which I call land we own, the demolition is part of the land to get the property ready. That's part of the cost that was in there. Your vertical portion of it, which is the actual construction of the building. Then you have your soft cost, and soft cost is everything from your financing, your engineering, your architects, and everything else. We don't have the estimate for those soft costs except from that one company, which was 500. So if you take the 10 mil and add the 500 on top of it, and you say Frank is another 5, and you take the infrastructure, it's not gonna take much to hit the 13 mil. So I wanna be able to sit down and say, okay, let's take 30,000 as a number, go get a bid from this company, it's a service, we don't have to go through the bidding process, they're familiar, and then we start getting our data together. We also met, some of us met with Northampton for the legacy cost. They're gonna be supplying us information for the legacy cost. So by the end of the year, or by budget time, I'm hoping that we could sit here and say, this is the cost of the vertical, this is the cost from our engineer to do what he has to do, this is the cost from the architect, and this is the soft cost of what we can figure out on that side. And by the way, here's what it would cost if we would do a bond float. Now, the interest rates are fluctuating right now. I heard today that the 10-year went up, but the 2-year went down. So I don't know how that affects the bond, but it's something that we have to look at and figure that out. So we could put this all together and sit down and say, okay, the number is this, and here's where we're at. The max is 13 mil, and by the time we go for our grants and stuff like that, maybe we're down to only financing 7 or 6. How do we want to do that? And at that point, if you don't have an alternate plan to give the residents, then at that point, you didn't look at a second option. And I think it's imperative that before you spend 13 mil, you better come up with and find out if it's a second arrangement. I did speak to Stephanie at yeah, I did today. She says one of the concerns is that the life expectancy of that existing building is not like for 30 years, and there's things that has to be done. So when you take into consideration the life expectancy of the building, and I'm just gonna pick a number, is say 10 years left, and you say you're gonna be sitting here for 5 years before you unlock the door, that means there's not much left. Maybe that's not even a viable option. But I would find it very hard to go to our residents and say we're spending 13 million without looking into that. So I'm requesting that we either get a resolution or however we mechanically do this, go to the HGA, I think it is, and ask to obtain a bid for that arrangement to see exactly where we're at and figure that out. The second thing, to piggyback that, they also told you that at next month's meeting that they're going to be giving us the park and recreation study. Now, we started out with 20 committee members on that, and there's about 6 or 7 of us that are participating on a regular basis. I spoke to Lee this afternoon or this morning about some of the concerns that I had, and they're very regimentated. They're regimented that this has to happen, and days go by. Well, they told us that we need to have all of our information in by last Friday. Well, I'm going to tell you that there's a lot of questions that I have, and there's a lot of questions that Lee had that we could talk about later, but I'm asking for them to have a delay, and I've asked Lee, I expected maybe Randy would have been here tonight, that we have a meeting of our committee to review those details. And the reason I'm piggybacking these together is because the recreation center is really a strong part of what we're talking about. The recreation and park plan is also a strong part. And how can we approve a recreation plan if there's deficiencies in that plan? Now, Lee brought up some good important points, and it's okay. Can I explain some of those, Lee, or do you want to explain them? Okay. Under our current regulations, we're able to collect impact fees under our current comprehensive plan. The new one doesn't say anything to it, just says refer back. So when I talked to her today, my opinion, as I explained to Lee, is that this book is going to be put on the shelf and the old one goes away. I don't want to find ourselves referring back to an old book. It should be a new book. The new book should have the current maps and should also have the current methods of collecting fees. Jeff has brought up in the past, can we have recreation fees on commercial? I think he's brought that up. That's not even addressed in here. So I said to her today, Stephanie, I'm for a 30-day delay on presenting it to the Board of Commissioners so that the committee can get together and review it page by page. This is a 140-page document. They gave us approximately 45 minutes to an hour to go through the document. We were supposed to go through it in advance, but I'm one of these guys line item making my note routine, and she wanted me to type all these notes up, and I go, Steph, I don't spell, my grammar's terrible. My God, you kidding me? So the end result is I would like to have a delay and approve that there would be a delay to that, number one. And number two, it's the same group for the $30,000 for the review of a second option. Those are two things that I'm asking for tonight. I know it's a lot, but we got 18 months of work in this thing, and it's not adequate, in
Did the
my opinion.
$30,000 come from HRG as their estimate to do
No,
that?
I'm asking on our side of the table that, we do that. And if you don't want to give a number and say we asked them for a proposal, I'm fine with that. But you got to keep the ball rolling, and it'll take them 60 days to get what we need, and we work our way through the process. Go ahead.
I would just say, I would ask for a proposal first to see. Instead of throwing a number out there.
We need to, I mean, there's a threshold. I mean, we just.
I don't know.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, we have a threshold, and we're gonna have to get a proposal.
Is it 25? So I had two answers to the same question. If it's services rendered, you already have a contract with them, the threshold doesn't apply. And then the other one was the 25K does apply. So I don't know which way, how it works.
In either case, I recommend you get a proposal, and then you can do a resolution to consider approving it, rather than approving something. First of all, you can't approve anything tonight because it's not on the agenda. But I think it would make sense to ask them for a proposal, and then you can consider what you're voting on, rather than trying to approve something without a known number, because we don't know where it will come in, right? And then we might need a different approval method depending on what the number is.
Okay, so I don't know how to do that. As a commissioner, I would not ask them for a proposal directly without talking here, because I don't think that's something I should do. But I would like the permission of the board to move forward with the mayor and the staff to figure out how to do that, and talk to that company to tell them what I'm thinking of for a second proposal. Now, I've told them that we're looking for that I am. I also told them at tonight's meeting, I would be discussing it, and I need your direction to tell me what to do.
Well, who would be the one to go to submit for a proposal to request?
I don't know how it works.
Jack or Jack?
I would think that the town, the administration, either the purchasing agent or Brandon or one of us would be able to do that, facilitate that.
And I would work with them to try to explain to them what I'm trying to do on the technicalities of what's happening and how it's happening. To give you an idea, under the current plan for $10 million, They looked at the parking lot based on the current zoning of 10 by 20, which drove the cost through the ceiling. And we don't have to do a 10 by 20, we can maybe do 9 by 18 and save some dollars and cents. So that's a separate issue. That's where our engineer would come in and say, look, here's everything we got going. Now tell me what we got going, Keystone or Frank, on this arrangement. That would be the next step to figure that out, so you can compare the infrastructure against one infrastructure and what's happening. But my first question would be, if you would say yes, then I'd pick up the phone and call Jack or Joe and say, okay, now who do I meet? And then figure this thing out and then develop the proposal. And does the RFP have to go to somebody that's not familiar, or can it go strictly to that company?
It sounds like it's professional service, that we can just ask for a proposal.
From that company?
I guess I would want to see a little bit more what you're asking for, and it might be a little easier to do that, you know, separately,
Oh, fine.
but it sounds like a professional service that we can just ask them for a proposal without doing an RFP.
Okay. So I need the blessing of the board.
And just to be clear, are you talking about potentially using the existing facility for those common areas that aren't the gym?
So on the plan that was given to us, they had the entrance area that you
Yeah,
walked in
yeah.
and the community room.
Right.
The community room is almost the size
Right,
of the
okay,
current.
that's what I
So that's
thought.
what I'm trying to figure out, you know, and talk about and have a conversation on, because you're building a space twice. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think it's a good idea to have,
I think it's a good idea to have it done, depending on what the cost comes back.
And I think that costs, we don't give them a number. If we tell them the number, that's what they'll come back with.
So did you vote on it, or just everybody nods to vote okay?
we don't vote on it.
We don't vote on it? Okay, so then I'll reach out to you guys and discuss it.
We need a resolution.
No.
Not tonight.
I know, but
Yeah.
moving forward.
Okay. And then the second issue was, do you have a problem that if we would go to HGA and tell them that we would like to have, yeah, Mr. Wright knows, that we can have a 30-day extension, take some pressure off so that staff and the committee can review it in more detail? Because the question that Lee brought up as far as funding is very, very valid, because under the way it's currently written, if you're a developer, your new comprehensive plan does not have a specific method to charge me impact fees, and I would say I don't have to pay them. That's my position. Repeat.
They did send an email today saying, today's the 14th, today's the
did.
deadline. If you need more time, let us know. I think if we ask for an extension, that means that their date of presentation gets extended too.
That's right.
I don't think it costs them more money. We're just pushing out the calendar.
She would be very happy with a 30-day extension. So I said to Lee today that herself, myself, and Brandon, because I don't know who the chairman of the committee is, because things got a little altered around, but Brandon has been the lead person on this. So is that something that Brandon's going to ask for, or is that something I pick up the phone and tell her it's okay? Give me guidance on how that works internally. There is a contract and a time frame on it. I'm looking at
Yeah.
anybody. I have no problems with picking up the phone, calling Steph and say, Steph, we're good for a 30-day extension.
It sounds like it's a question for Lenore, if HRG would just continue pushing out the calendar
Or
30
Brandon
days.
can reach out to him
Yeah.
tomorrow. Give Brandon a call in the morning or an email and let
Okay.
Brandon know.
Does it have to be that group? Can it be an independent, like with the infrastructure? Can it be an independent, not this company?
There's nobody on staff or on this board that I think that can make a good educated decision of what has to be done or not done that would be valid.
I'm just looking at, if you're gonna present something to the community, you have a company that had one version of what they wanna build, and now you wanna do the same with the same infrastructure. I think it should be an independent person, not the same company. If you're gonna give
Actually, no, you don't want to do that. What you're asking them to do is just change the scope of work, and they're familiar with everything that's on it, and therefore, they would be better doing the scope of work of the existing company.
I understand that, but I just believe in a fairness process of company wanted to spend millions of dollars and an independent person. That's all
Okay.
I'm saying, Ken. It's just
All right.
out loud.
Commissioner Fox, report.
Sorry, we get a lot of feedback over here. My hearing aid has
Yeah,
been
just to give everybody a
ringing.
heads up, Larissa had and Lenore had people work on the system, so the system should be working. It seems to be working better, so not everyone has to turn off at the same time.
I was just saying, we're getting a lot of feedback in my hearing aid. Keep
Yeah,
hearing the
that I
ringing.
can't control,
It's
I'm
not your fault, guys. I did get a chance to go to the family night in Whitehall. It was the first one I actually got to go to, and I was really surprised and saw a lot of great things that our community, everyone was there with kids or just in general, so. And thank you for everyone coming here tonight.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Randy Attia, even though Commissioner Attia is not here tonight. He was brought on as the newest board member of the District 11 Committee representing East Penn Conference for all Lehigh County schools. So I know that Randy is very passionate about our youth, and he just goes way above and beyond his job and just is so involved with our community and with our kids. So I really appreciate that about him. And that's it.
Just want to reiterate again, thanks to Home Depot team for helping clean up the Jordan Greenway from end to end. That was a big help. Chestnut Street, near the bridge, it's a township road. There's a low spot there that I think I talked to you about that collects water. Every time it rains, there's a 10-foot pool of water. That's a hydroplane hazard. There is right-of-way on either side of the road and the bridge. The water from the roadway goes right into the creek. It would be nice to cut down that high soil area and divert that into the creek. I don't care what the owner that adjacent to it, it's not his land, and it's a safety hazard.
Yeah, I'm addressing that problem. Actually, the owner, the adjoiner, called me and complained about the drag out from New Enterprise in the new quarry and asked if they could install a wash station. So I reached out to them, waiting to hear back. But I told them about a couple things. You know, they're very cooperative generally, and they said they would consider that. And I told them about the depression in the road. And I said, there's a lot of seismic activity that's taking place in that corridor. There was a blasting this morning, I believe, it like shook my whole house. To make a long story short, I'm seeing if they're, because they did most of Chestnut Street when they rejuvenated the quarry or reopened the operation.
Yeah.
So I asked them if they would consider repairing that area.
Yeah, I think either it has to be built up or the inlet was at a higher elevation than that, the approach to the
Yeah,
bridge.
I mean, I'm not a
So-
geologist, you are, but I believe there's seismic activity in that area because of the heavy blasting that takes place. And I'm waiting to hear back from them, so I'll report to you when I do, if not, I'll follow
Okay,
up.
yeah, I noticed it was a hazard that keeps, the banner across MacArthur Road, we have to pass another resolution this year, and then we have to decide timing of when that work may or may not be done? Is there any update on that?
We're just waiting on having you approve the
Okay,
streetlight
all right.
contractor tonight.
All right.
So Diefendorfer has a pole,
Okay.
has a pole drilling unit that can do all that, so we were waiting on
Hopefully the
having
prices
these
have been more
prices.
favorable, so thank you.
Yeah, and we have the resolution from Frank, Scott from his office sent that in, so that'll be on the agenda in the near future.
And tonight, we did receive an email from a resident on Front Street in Hockendakwa with concerns about closing down Water Street. Will that come to the board for a vote, or is that strictly a mayor decision?
No, it's not
Okay.
gonna come to the board, I don't have to do that.
Right.
Of course I will as a courtesy, but, you know, there hasn't been, Frank's still working on it, Peter Terry, our traffic engineer, and Jack, our solicitor. We're all working together. I just wanna make it clear that, you know, there's a lot of talk on social media about, oh, you do this, you do that, and with the Lehigh Street Bridge closing down and the detour that's currently in place or was in place, listen, when we have cars going 67 miles an hour, I mean, that's an unacceptable speed, and the volume of traffic that goes to that neighborhood. And this is temporary, okay? Use your imagination. PennDOT's definition of temporary is open-ended, basically. I don't want to violate anyone's trust, but we need to do something, and we need to be serious about this. And what I'm going to do is recommend to the board then to create a traffic committee to look at traffic calming across the township as a whole, because there's a lot of issues. We were just successful, the police department ordered the new digital speed indicating signs. We're looking at places to put them in the township and move them around, and if we're successful with them, I intend, as long as I'm here, to appropriate more. I believe it's a good deterrent. It just reminds people. But then there's naysayers who say, well, people will exceed the speed limit to see how fast they're going on a digital board. Well, I don't buy that or drink that Kool-Aid. But I'm going to do my very best. Public safety is a big issue. There's been a lot of tragic deaths on our roadways, not here in Whitehall, but there were 2 last year. I take it very seriously. Public safety has to be, that's our number 1 priority, our number 1 responsibility. And I'm going to do my very best to get the people down in Darktown comfortable and try to get some type of traffic calming done down there. But everything takes time. This is taking time. And people grow impatient. And before something else happens, hopefully, cross my fingers, we actually get something done. And, you know, the naysayers can sit there. That road was closed for almost 3 years when the bridge was being rebuilt. People were inconvenienced. But we're making this so public safety is going to have accessibility and they'll be able to get through, because that was the biggest talking point at this point. Fire, police, and EMS will be able to get through because it'll be gated. People are going to be inconvenienced. Yes, it's going to add to Eberhart. Yes, it's going to add to 7th. Yes, it's going to add to Lehigh. But you know what? We live in a world with a lot of traffic. The warehousing's a huge issue in the valley. There's a lot of issues. And people are going to be inconvenienced, but we have to be more civil and respectful of each other. Let's be honest. Everybody leads busy lives and they're rushing all over the place. And this is going to be an inconvenience in some people's daily schedules. But you know what? Life's going to go on. And hopefully nobody else will get hurt.
On January 14th, I contacted Lehigh Valley Planning Commission and talked to Brian Height, who is their traffic planner. And
Yeah,
it was
we
about
sat
LTAP.
down and he was here.
And I asked on January 14th, I wanted a meeting with them. Again, on January 20th, I asked you for a meeting. Brian sent an email on the 27th offering a meeting, and we met on February 7th.
Yes.
And it was about traffic calming. So if your comments are, if you're suggesting it's a temporary closure, I would like to start moving towards looking at if traffic calming will work down there. And that's-
Absolutely.
yeah, so-
But once again, I just want to get it done, and it's going to take longer.
But if it's, to me, if, we're already January, February, March, April. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's PennDOT standards, yes, so. All right, I was just open to conversation, and I didn't want to be voting on something 6 months from now where we're not part of the decision process going forward. We haven't evaluated. You know, Pat Wright is the PennDOT consultant that was at the meeting. He's done traffic calming in 67 counties in the Commonwealth. He helped write the traffic calming manual for the Commonwealth. South Whitehall has a traffic calming manual. In the meeting, we were told traffic calming is possible. There are some areas where you could put speed bumps or speed tables.
And I agree, and Mr.
And he
Wright-
did say a large percentage of the traffic will decide not to use that road because of the inconvenience. So, I guess, I just put that out there, that conversation was had. The paper cut, the 67, we were supposed to publish the 2 speed studies. Were they published? I know they were, a right to know was filed and they were put out there, but they weren't on their website, or were they?
Yeah, I believe they were.
Okay.
I believe they were put on our website.
One vehicle was
I-
doing,
Yeah.
yeah, there was 67 mile, there was one vehicle doing 67 miles an hour.
Yeah, but.
And that couldn't be an emergency vehicle, a police car going somewhere, we don't know.
No,
We
our
don't know.
police don't go
I
67
don't know.
miles an hour down through dark.
Come on. So, no, that's fair. I just, that report, I'll leave it at that. I'm not the expert here, but I do think, if we're calling it a temporary closure.
Well, there were 2 speed analyses done, one in 2019 and one in 2025, okay? The highest speed in 2025 was 57. The number of daily trips dramatically increased.
200, I think 200?
No, it's 2,500 a day on average.
Yeah.
But the point being is, if you look at the average residential street, especially cul-de-sac, because I live on one, there's 2 cul-de-sacs in my street. We may see 10 cars a day. That's seeing 2,500. So you talk about excessive travel, that's excessive travel. I think Mr. Clark will agree with me. I mean, for a cartway of that size, that's a lot of cars.
Just an update, Pete, after speaking with the mayor, Pete, Terry and I went out and did quite a bit of recon shortly after the meeting, and we kind of mapped out where we want additional survey work done. We have the south end by the sewer authority pumping station, that's where the gate's going to be, so we have survey order for that, as well as where that little access point is to get up to the trail. That's not necessarily sanctioned by Norfolk Southern. That's gonna be like the last resort area. That's where we're gonna look at putting a barricade for the southbound movement. It would be like similar to a barricade you see out on PennDOT roads for detours that have sandbags on them. We can't put a permanent structure there. That's absolutely out of the question. Especially if somebody doesn't pay attention and runs into it, we don't wanna have a solid object there that they're gonna get injured. If they plow into a barricade with sandbags, that's fine, they'll survive that. The other thing we're looking at is other areas for turnarounds. We have to supply those areas. One of the areas that we're looking at is down by the monument, the War Memorial. We'll probably need about basically 2 parking places that will have to stripe out, two parking spaces worth of an area that will have to stripe out strictly for people that get down there too far and they realize, oh, I guess that's me, I can't go through, because we all have those. Well, gee, that detour's not for me, so it will be blocked off, you can't get out. So there'll have to be a place for them to turn around, even like a UPS driver or something like that. There's enough room for them to do a K-turn and get out. Our other concern was larger trucks, and we're gonna have to sign the bridge coming over into Whitehall, so there's already signs on the lamp posts. We'll be able to affix signs on those, so that won't be a problem. Once we get to Water Street, if somebody in a larger vehicle gets down that way, there's only one area that we found suitable for a turnaround, and that's the old Norfolk Southern right-of-way that comes up to the jug handle. So right now it's in grass, it's relatively flat. We'll probably be able to do some improvements in regard to stone over fabric. I can't pave it, but at least that area will be available so people can pull off the road, turn around and go back up. I can't have a vehicle all the way down there and get stuck. I've seen that, my office is on a cul-de-sac, we've seen, tractor trailers come in there and can't get out. So it really makes a mess of things, but we have our sign package pretty well put together, skull and crossbones notwithstanding, but we're pretty well on our way with that. We'll just get some more survey information, and just, so I can throw my anecdotal comments in there. So when we were out reconning that, I was parked up by that access up to the trail, and looking down at the bridge where the yield signs are, or the stop signs are, thinking, how am I gonna get survey down there? How am I gonna keep the guys safe? And the more I looked at it, the more I said, I am not sending surveyors down there. We're gonna stop it here. There's no reason to get more survey data on that bridge. The south side, no problem, we can work around that. There's plenty of room by the sewer authority, but that tight pinch point at the bridge, there's no way I'm sending men down there. So we're gonna stop it at that last access point, and that's it. So we have it pretty well mapped out. We just have to wait for some more data. And then again, looking at, we'll map out the detour route, because we're gonna call it a temporary detour. At least we can get it in place. If that buys us time to do a speed study or go through all that, that'll buy us time. So at least we have options. The gate is a legitimate road closing gate, more like a railroad gate, if you will. It drops down, so it'll be locked, and emergency services will have keys for that, and they'll know how to open it. But that'll carry pretty much all the way across the road, except for like the last 2 or 3 feet, more like 3 or 4 feet, because the bus stop's got to be down that end. So the kids will be able to walk down the road and go across that real narrow bridge and get to a bus stop. So that's the layout. That's where we are right now. So.
And I will not be at the school board meeting this week, but if, then most of the kids are on the north end of Water Street. I know there was an effort made to bring a bus to the south end by the bridge. But if most of the kids are up in the northern end, that should be a consideration.
According to the superintendent and the transportation officer, because it should be relatively safe because there's no through traffic. They don't have a concern, even though there aren't sidewalks, that the avenue that the kids have to take now is much unsafer than the avenue they'll have to take to get down to Eberhard. So they're confident, and it's basically their decision, and it was one we agreed upon mutually, so.
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
I'm the liaison for Wichita, and I asked them to give me a copy of their contracts for their accounting and their executive officer. You may know this, Jeff knows about this. And they told me that I have to file for a right to know because they won't give it to me unless I ask for a right to know. So, okay, so I got the right to know. Do I file for this thing with the right to know? Because there was a discussion in the township between our mayor, myself, their executive directors, and Kent Newhart earlier in the year, and there was two things that we requested to be put in their contracts for non-compete and things to that effect. And so I asked for the contracts to see if they did that. So do you want me to file a right to know, because they won't give it to me unless I file a right to know?
Yeah.
Well,
To me, I filed right to know for Whitehall Township to get stuff that I've requested, just to make it, there's
fine.
no favors passing stuff, papers across the table.
Just caught me a little off guard, but I'm okay. I just thought I'd ask you.
I don't know, I would just fill out the form and expect to get it in timely.
Well, the reason I
Yeah, I
am is
mean,
because this was part of our
I-
budget
yeah.
discussions. This is what we did. So now they're asking for right to know. I'd come to you and say, guys, you okay with this? Yes, okay, fine, I'll file the paperwork. I'm good. That's all.
You can't go over to the sewer authority and ask for a contract without filing a right to know.
I had
don't
a
know.
different opinion of it,
I
but
don't
that's
know.
all right. I'm good.
And I'm
They
I'm not
explained their,
opposed to it.
they explained their position, and I understand it, and I'm good with it.
Yeah.
We're good.
I would have waited, I would have submitted it right away.
Well, I prefer to go to the board so they know what I'm doing. I have nothing else.
I have nothing. Treasurer's report?
I sent everybody the treasurer's report. If anybody has any questions, I also sent a copy of what Berkheimer collected so far. And what was the other thing? Oh, the tax collector's report. The other thing I wanted to mention is I ran this in Burke, so for garbage bills, we collected 2,368 garbage bills so far this year, which is ahead of the game from last year, surprisingly. But we still have 4,924 bills to collect before the end of the year. So we're a little less than halfway there in the discount period. So we're doing good. The credit cards are helping us. It's so convenient for people to pay these bills online. So the more we can add to this, which talked to Jack, and we're getting the credit card readers outside the windows, hopefully this year, and that will help payments also. So we're just trying to think of new ways to make it convenient.
Permit
for
fees,
tax-
things of that nature too? Great.
I know. That's all I have.
I have a lot. I just want to reiterate what I said last week at the workshop, but unfortunately, state legislature designated April 12th as Volunteer Firefighter Day. Unfortunately, we crossed that threshold already, but I just want to reach out and thank the firefighters in this township, the men and women, for everything that they do. They're a godsend to us. They save us a lot of tax revenue, and they do a phenomenal job. Second thing I have is, I'm asking for the board's graces. I had Mr. Witt from Witt's Tree Service come out. He's a certified arborist. He looked at the two evergreen trees in front of the municipal building. They're on their last leg. I would like to remove those for a cost of $1,000, which we have out of garden fund monies. And I would like to replace those 2 trees with a Norwegian spruce where the original tree was and designate that as the township Christmas tree. It's more, it's not susceptible to pests, to drought. He recommended the tree, highly recommended it. It'll last us a long time, way above our lifetimes, and it'll serve us well. So I'd like to designate that as the new township Christmas tree then. How big? 15 feet. I mean, I don't know if I can get a bigger one, but we have the monies, and Jack authorized it, so we're good to go. The other thing, the cameras. We've been doing research. The numbers are coming in substantially higher than the money that we appropriated. We're going to work all the numbers, get it to you guys. You'll be able to review it and decide what level of service we want and how far we want to go with this.
You said you consulted with more than one?
Oh, yeah, we have five vendors. I think we've met with 3 or 4 of them already. They all have different ideas. Some are similar in scope, but the costs exceed our initial estimates by a lot.
I think what the public, I've heard from the public, is that they've recognized some of the vandalism, that the cameras need to be at a grade that we can prosecute somebody. And it's a deterrent more than it's a tool to prosecute, but no sense in having a cheap camera if it's not useful on the back end.
Okay, I generally don't toot my own horn, but I'm going to tonight. And I want to thank the staff. I want to thank Jack, Brandon, Lenore, Lee, Sheldon, Sheldon's associate, Jeff Greenswig, Recreation Maintenance, Public Works, Johnny, our pool tech. I want to go through, this is how serious this mayor takes recreation. And I know it's been a sore subject in this township, and COVID didn't help the situation, but Parkway Pavilion, we were successful getting the kitchen put together to service us. Water heater, water outside. I had New Enterprise donate 300 yards of stone to refurbish the parking lot, remove the tree that used to live in the parking lot, planted 2 new trees out in front of the pavilion. West Caddy, put in a new floor. This was before my time, but it was appropriated. Got the floor done, looks phenomenal. New lighting, ceiling tiles, electrical work, a counter between the kitchen and the service area. We painted the building, the interior, new curtains. I even ironed them in my office. I discovered the West Caddy Memorial, the Veterans Memorial. Never knew it was there. We addressed that last year. Public Works went in, pressure washed the stones, cleaned up the area. I'm asking EAC, I talked to Ms. Rosine, if you guys would be willing to plant flowers in the wonderful circle that's around the flagpole this year. We'll have it all mulched out. Rec building maintenance. We painted the interior of Cementon, Schott Avenue and Jefferson this winter. Johnny, our pool tech, is like a professional painter on the side. He basically directed the rec maintenance crew on how to paint, how to do it right, and the buildings look beautiful. Hockey pool. We're painting the changing areas, the ceiling. They scraped the ceilings for months. We're painting the ceilings, the walls. If the weather permits and we have enough time, we're going to paint the exteriors of every building in very thoughtful colors. They're going to look very park-like, very professional. We're installing a new diving board at Hockey Pool. We reconstituted the one because the one at Jefferson was relatively brand new. So we went in, tore out all the concrete, put in all the hardware, and we'll have a new diving board at the pool. The floor in the changing areas, we're going to have non-skid it and repaint it. So it's going to be, a beautiful facility, upgrade it as best as we can do for basically no cost other than materials. We're using inside labor. We were successful hiring someone bumped from Public Works into the new rec maintenance position. And we were successful in hiring somebody to replace that individual in Public Works. I took care of their shop. The guys in rec maintenance were, moved over here. There were a couple of accoutrements they needed in their shop. I provided a new industrial first aid kit, a garbage bin, an eye wash station, a porta potty, so they're not inconvenienced and they don't have to walk across the way to get to the Public Works building to go to the bathroom. I've been dealing with the homeless issues on Jordan Parkway, Range Road, the trailhead, and I'm also addressing panhandling. I know it's a sensitive subject, but I'm a going to address it in a highly sensitive fashion, and I just want to let everybody know. Trailhead, I had it pressure washed last year, mid-season. Of course, the new parking lot's being installed, and we're going to do as many updates as we can to the Trailhead Pavilion once all that work's done. It was just reported to us by our arborist. We did multiple tree removals along the rail trail, but he had a fiduciary responsibility, because he's a certified arborist, to report that there's some trees in our parks that need to sorely be addressed. So we're going to address those trees at additional cost. The trail, we were unsuccessful getting the grant to repave the complete trail, partnering with Copley. So I got Public Works to go out, and they were gracious enough to do so, and they've been patching, milling where the roots and the heaving's taking place and the imperfections are on the trail. You can see they're marked in yellow, orange, whatever colors they used, but they're out there on their downtime using residuals from our paving projects to fix the trail up. Potato Chip Barn was demoed. I don't know if everyone knows where it is, but it was next to the Watchman Garage on Munchuck Road, down off Shot Avenue. The back of the structure fell apart late last year, or mid last year. We had to get an emergency contractor. It was all done above board by the bid process. The barn was removed. The area was regraded and seeded. It's wonderful. I took some artifacts. They're back there in the cabinets. They're clearly marked. Copley Creek, I've addressed from the Tate Farm down to basically the Lehigh River. Public Works has been slowly, and I'll probably give Lee a heart attack because I never got a permit from the DEP, but I wasn't required to because we never physically went in the creek. If you go in the creek, you have to get a permit. If you work from outside the creek, you don't. But I felt strongly we needed to remove all the obstructions in the creek because the creek was being redirected in multiple locations, and because we're upstream and this area is very prone to flooding, and of course all the homes and residential areas, I felt strongly we needed to do something because DCNR, no one's addressing this issue, so I took it upon myself to address it. But I want to thank Public Works for all their hard work. Jefferson Barn, or Jefferson Playground. Senator Miller was gracious enough to call me and ask me if we needed anything. I said, sure, we'll take whatever you can give us. He was gracious enough to get a grant for us. We're putting in new park play equipment, tables, and benches. Park cameras, I just reviewed, Christmas tree out front. Cement and pool, we'll continue to work on it. I don't want to let it degrade because the more you let it sit there, the worse off it'll be. In our downtime, I wish we had the staff. I'd do it.
Rotate them, I'm telling you.
But, well, it doesn't work that way. I respectfully disagree with you. We have a wonderful pool. We have a lot going for us. We're doing vast improvements. You have to freely admit, and I heard you say it, the pool ran, it was a spectacular season last year.
Oh, it was.
So we're going to do our very best to keep it going. And the Chestnut Street Barn. I know this is one of Mr. Ginder's things, but, you know, we're ready to pull the trigger. We're going to get it painted. We're going to get a new roof on it. And I want to find out if we can get an artist that's willing to do some type of, you know, painting, hex signs, whatever it may be, and maybe a historic designation, you know, Whitehall Township, Circa, whatever. I don't know. It's just an idea. If anyone has a better idea, let's go there. And that's it. I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank this staff. This staff is phenomenal. And, you know, the banter on social media, I don't want to sit here and preach to the choir. Whitehall has a lot of great things going for it. Why don't we just all try to get along and work together to make it a better community than to pull each other apart? Why don't we just like prop each other up and support each other? And mistakes are made. I'll own my mistakes. Come at me, bring it. But, you know, the banter about this staff, these people are wonderful people. They take their jobs very seriously, and they really, truly care. And most of them are citizens of Whitehall. So let's just be nicer. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.